morning. This is the Eager Beaver Show.
You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters, CanadianTarot.com, your uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and the Peppermaster, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. Well,
Hello.
good morning, and hello, kids, and welcome to Season 4 and episode number 474 of the Daily Beaver Morning Show here on the Crier Media Network. Yeah!
Crier Media.
Recording day is Friday. Thank God I'm Friday. September 20th, 2024. And it seems that if you're still here, we all survived Friday the 13th last week. So congratulations, you're back for the sequel. I'm your host, the Daily Beaver, the Eager Beaver, your Eager Beaver. Pronouns he, him. Hey, Mr. Beaver, eh? And with me, as always, is my good friend, Mr. Grizzly. A big thank you goes to our podcast founding sponsors, the Peppermaster, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, and CanadianTarot.com. We're going to have a fun show for you, I think, today, because the writ has been dropped in New Brunswick. So we'll look a little bit at what's going on over there.
I didn't even know that. I missed that.
Yes, but it didn't seem to crack much news, to be totally honest. For some reason, it's an election. Come on.
Should be.
Yeah, really. But here you go. Mr. Grizzly, how's your mental health today?
Well, I think my choice of t-shirt or choice of shirt should indicate that I'm feeling pretty good today. A sense of whimsy, if you will. Yeah, I'm back in the saddle again after a few very rough days. And I don't know, was it the full moon? Was it, I don't know what caused my mental health issue, but it's over for now. I mean, I have every reason to suspect it will come back at some point in time. It's not, the medication treats the illness. It doesn't, or treats the disorder. It does not cure it. But I am looking into some other alternative methods that have shown to have very good results in putting an end to anxiety and depression through certain pharmacological treatments. And it's something I'm considering, but I'm going to discuss it with my doctor before I do so. Because, I don't have an income. So when my medication runs out, I don't know what it's going to cost to replace it. So if I can find something that will do the trick that I keep reading about, I'd certainly consider it.
Are you speaking the supervised psilocybin treatments?
Yeah, the supervised treatments, the microdosage. It's something I've been looking into for some time now. I know a number of people who've gone through it and said it's been a miracle for them. So it's something I'm considering, but I do want to talk to my doctor about it first, get his input. It's not something I'm willing to just do. It would need to be done, under the care of a physician. It's just something I'm like, I'm looking for a permanent fix, if there is one. I don't know that there is. It's something I've considered. It's something I'm looking into, but it is something I will do under the care of my physician to make sure that all precautions are taken because I have a million allergies, right? So who
Right.
knows? Everybody goes, "Oh
No,
no, it'll fix you. It'll fix you." What if I go on anaphylactic shock?
no, it's becoming a recognized and respected avenue for research and treatment because right here where I am at the Beaver Lodge
Hmm.
in April 2023, Queen's University and the KHSC, which is the Kingston Health Science Center, launched a clinical trial of psilocybin therapy to treat alcohol use disorder.
Oh,
So that started, in April. So it began in May 2023. Kingston joined 6 other sites in Canada and Europe that are already recruiting patients for the clinical trial. And the research was scheduled to take place over a 24-week period at the Kingston General Hospital Research Institute, located on the grounds of the Kingston Health Sciences Center. Participants were randomly assigned to 2 groups, of course, one that received 25 milligram capsule of psilocybin and one that would receive a matching placebo. And then they did that research. And I'm not sure if that research led to this, but on August 7th, and I found this in CBC News, that there's a new psychedelics medical research center opening
oh,
in Kingston. So I'm guessing some of results from the alcohol study must have somehow funneled into this. But yeah, just last month, the Kingston Ontario Hospital Network and University are opening a new medical psychedelics research center. The Center for Psychedelics Health and Research launched Wednesday at the Eastern Ontario City's Providence Care Hospital. Psychedelics are drugs that cause psychological effects in the person who consume them, such as hallucinations. Indigenous people have been using psychedelics as healing tools for millennia. Canadian researchers have been studying the effects of drugs such as psilocybin, the psychoactive compound in magic mushrooms, LSD, and ketamine on mental health conditions. While those 3 are controlled substances, Health Canada can allow their use in medical trials. Queen's Dean of Health Sciences, Dr. Jane Philpott, who might be returning to politics,
I was going to say
in a
she was a
news
former
release.
politician. Yeah.
Pardon?
I was going to say she's a former politician.
Yeah, former health minister. She
Okay.
she left when Jody Rabel Wilson left.
Okay.
She left in solidarity. Queen's Dean of Health Science, Dr. Jane Philpott, said in a news release the center will be an important step towards building a knowledge base to support patients struggling with mental health and substance use. The news release said that the center plans to train healthcare professionals to use psychedelics as a therapeutic tool, host community workshops to share knowledge, and fight the stigma associated with psychedelics. It also mentioned chronic pain and palliative care as areas it's interested in. The center's new director, Dr. Claudio Suarez, the chair of a psychedelic science committee at the school, wrote he believes the new center will help Canada, quote, make informed choices about the efficacy and safety of psychedelics in the future. The center also has support from the Ontario Brain Institute and the Canadian Biomarker Integration Network in Depression, where Suarez is a founder and executive. Though the center opened Wednesday, it's in its early days and it still needs to be outfitted to conduct the trials and other work it hopes to host. So there you go.
So
It's
there's
this seems to be serious business, and I know that in other areas, like for example, soldiers who survive PTSD, they're trying talk therapy, but assisted with MDMA,
mhm,
which is often referred to the kids as Molly.
or
Uh,
ecstasy.
yeah, ecstasy, because those tend to remove inhibitions and make you a little chatty and talkative. So people seem to be able to get over some blocks
Mm,
they have about talking stuff. And again, in a clinical supervised setting with a professional that can bring you down a path. And if they unlock things that happen to get dark and messy, well, they're there to help you with that. Because that's why we always recommend to do it with a medical professional, not
yes.
do it with a friend, or not just do it yourself. Because if you happen to unlock something that's dark and messy and scary, you want someone there who's in complete control of their faculties
Exactly.
to be able to guide you through that in a manner that doesn't create more risk for you. So please do not self-medicate. Do this. This is a supervised therapy, but yes, it seems that this is becoming a thing, and at least having results that are interesting enough
Hmm.
that people want to do academic studies and random trials with I guess double blind, I guess in this case, because one does get a placebo, but to do that type of research and to get some details. Yes, this might be an avenue for hope for a lot of people, because the way that somebody described it to me is, as you get older, you have patterns.
Yes.
So when something happens that triggers something in you, you go to your old patterns, and somebody described it as like ski trails
Mhm.
in your brain. So, this happened, and then you start going down that ski trail, and apparently this type of
Treatment.
substance mixed with therapy,
Mhm.
licensed therapy, allows you pretty much right from the first session to start creating new grooves, new ski trails, to think and process things differently. And apparently the results start showing relatively quickly, because once
Yes.
you start that new groove, it's almost like it trains your brain to go to that groove instead of the other groove
Instead of the
that
repeating
brings you
pattern.
to the places where you ruminate or go
Well,
to the dark place or wherever.
and oftentimes those places are brought about by childhood trauma, or trauma of some type, whether it's childhood or a workplace trauma or a family trauma. Who knows, right? We don't need to be specific about that. That's not the important part. The important part is it helps you sort of take the trauma on head on, and it never goes away. It's always still there, but you're able to work with it better. And like you said, it just creates a new pattern instead of going down the same one. You're repeating the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, except you're not consciously doing it. Your brain just does it because that's what it knows. So yeah, I think the possibilities here are possibilities of a cure are on the horizon now. Is that going to upset some people? Some stockholders, I'm sure it will be. Some shareholders, it will be in certain pharmacological companies. But don't worry, there's always a new disease around the corner that you can treat, right? But this is something that affects millions of people. It's a silent killer. It does that for so many people. And just trying to get through a day sometimes, it's next to impossible. And I've had days where I've been in meetings on big construction sites, and I'm heading up I'm running the IT division because I'm the foreman for the project we're working on. And I remember one specific meeting where they're talking, and all I was hearing was I couldn't hear anything. All I wanted to do was crawl under the table, curl up into the fetal position, and weep uncontrollably. But you cannot do that in a workplace. You can't do that on a construction site, especially when you're a man. Go ahead and hit me with whatever you want to on that one, but that's simply how society views it. Because I know people going, oh, you can't do that in a workplace. You can't. And a man, never in a workplace. And a man on a construction site in the workplace? No. Yet that's where I was mentally. There were days when it's like, okay, I'm going to have some lunch, and I would just walk out to my car, close my eyes, and take a nap. Couldn't deal with reality,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
We have kits here. PNC Bio says large hallucinogenic doses with talk therapy for soldiers has a huge effect for PTSD. Kit Saucy, no cure, psychedelic help reset, and some may need only one to get back on their feet, and others need a reset every month. Really depends on how the brain is.
Exactly.
I have Kit Dan asking here, so are mushroom stores legal? I do not believe they are yet, although there are lots of things happening like were happening in the days of the pot industry. So I know like in Ontario, I don't know if it's anywhere else, there's a store called Shrooms, SHROOMZ, that tries to open up facilities, businesses somewhere. They open up a storefront, they get the license and whatnot, and then after a couple of days, police come in and say,
There's a store on Bank Street in just a couple of blocks from here called Fun Guys, GUYZ. They've been open for months.
Yeah.
Probably over a year and a half, I think, honestly.
Yeah.
But they're not legal yet, so I don't know how they're doing it.
Yeah, well, it's like the dispensaries we had back in the day, right?
Yeah.
So they were sort of like a benign neglect until somebody complained too much, and then they went and closed a few down. But we had one that opened in Kingston not too long ago, I think September 2023. And I look it on Google and it says temporarily closed. So, it didn't take that long over here for that to happen. But I do believe that on Indigenous reservation,
Yes.
they can be
You can go to the
legally
res.
sold there.
Yes, on the
That's
res you
where
can
a
go.
lot of people get them, and they come in several formats. You can buy them like in a chocolate bar format. So if you're afraid of buying actual mushrooms because you
Mhm.
don't know about dosing,
Uh-huh.
right? You one of those chocolate bars, and then you could try one square and see how that works for you, like this, or two, and then you know that one or two squares will always have that same dose. They also have it in tea format.
Mhm.
That if you make a tea again because it's one bag of tea, essentially, if you take it and you see what effect it has on you, then you get an idea of dosing and of dosage. So but because that's always the thing, right?
Right. Well,
It's
my
it's, it's
big
dosing, and that's another place where we don't recommend that you try this at home or
no,
self-medicate
no.
specifically.
It's dangerous.
And if you do, the harm reduction
Mhm.
theory is once you put it in, you can't take it out.
Mhm.
So
Well,
it's best to start with too little
yeah.
and maybe not have an effect. And then when you try again the next time, a little bit more and you remember, like this. But so I mean, if you are going to self-medicate, that's the harm reduction principle.
Mhm.
Don't start with a lot. See what happens. I guess, and it
Well,
might take a couple of times for you to find your range, but really do this with supervision because you never know what might happen. And everybody's threshold is different. Everybody's body composition is different. And I don't know. Certain drugs have a smaller margin of safety
mhm.
than others. So, for example, we learned back in the day when we were learning our harm reduction in the rave days with regard to GHB, for example, that the margin of safety is very, very, very thin. It's literally a couple of milliliters between a dose that will make you feel good and a dose that can cause you trouble. With marijuana, for example, you know, it's like 3 puffs extra won't necessarily be enough to send you over the edge because you might get a little sick or something. But they're the threshold between a dose that will have a beneficial effect and a dose that will send you to a bad place is usually wider. Now, there are certain people, of course, for whom marijuana will cause them to go more the paranoid route and that type of thing. And, again, different compositions. So, yeah, always be very careful, and particularly with these newer, more experimental therapies, um, really don't self-medicate. There are pilot projects coming up and whatnot. So, if this is something that interests you, please talk to your therapist and, say that you'd be interested in exploring this and wondering, it's like basically ask your therapist if mushrooms are right for you. So-
Here's
but,
the thing.
but
Here's
here's
the
the
thing.
thing. And if you have a good therapist and if they are right, they will direct you to the pilot project that you need.
Well, this is what I'm trying to say. I have never, ever in my life used an illegal substance. I have never in my life used uh, narcotics for pleasure. I have had been prescribed drugs to treat pain post-op or breaks or issues such of that nature. But I have never tripped, if you will, ever. I've never smoked cannabis. I'm allergic to it, so that's right out the window. I've never taken any illegal substance. I've never taken a party drug. I've never experimented with recreational drugs. It's just not my thing. Never has been. Never will be. No judgment on those who want to do that. It's your body, your choice. Literally, that's what it is. In my case, I am considering this through the care of my physician because I am reaching a point where some days it's just like I need to stay in bed for 3 days. I can't do that and go to work. And there's been days where I've been at work where I'm just dragging my butt because I might not hate myself, but that's the one aspect of depression. There are other aspects like extreme fatigue, like no energy to get out of bed. That I feel frequently. And that is the part that I need to eliminate from my life. So if I can go and see my doctor and we can look at positive therapies that might help me through a psychotropic drug, I'm willing to try it because I am getting to the point where, look, man, I can't go on like this. It's getting to be too much because even though I am on medication and it has made a tremendous difference in my life, I'm not questioning that. I'm not putting that up for debate. It's made a tremendous difference in my life. And anybody who knows me well enough prior to medication and post medication would say, yes, you're a different person. I'm like, no, I'm who I am. I'm who I'm supposed to be. I'm whom I always was. It was just masked by this mental health disorder. So if I can take a treatment to, well, cure is the word I'm looking for, but I don't know if it is a cure. I'm considering doing it. I'm looking into it, and I will be speaking to my doctor about it next week to say, listen, medication's working, but what about this? Is this viable? Do you think I should go this route? Because I really am beginning to find pile all the things that are going on in my life on top of the mental health issues. It has its deleterious effect, to say the least.
Okay.
Shall we pivot, sir?
Just one little note here. I see the kids also making the point about they're looking at this Kit Saucy here. The research will be used to take mushrooms from the people. I'm not confident that this will actually be helpful to people because, if they find out that it works, then it becomes an industry and then there are laws that come around and regulations and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I understand that concern. But for most people who wouldn't grow themselves or do that type of thing, knowing that there is a safe supply.
Yes.
A place that they can go where
it's controlled, regulated.
What they say is in the package
is
actually on the packet. What's written on the package is actually what's in the package. That the effect is going to be consistent and predictable every time at a certain dose. There is value in that the product that is consumed is being made under good manufacturing practices.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'd like to address Christian's comment here. He says, there is no cure. You're setting yourself up for failure thinking it can be cured. It's managed, not cured. Yes, I said, for want of a better term, cured. I think the management is not going as well as it could be right now, and I'm looking for something that might help manage it better and get it under much better control. I'm looking for a cure. Why wouldn't I? Maybe there is one for me, because I know some people who have gone down that route, and that was it. They never looked back. Never looked back. So it cured them in the sense that they don't need it anymore, and the problem that they had is gone. So if that can, if it can have that effect on me, I'm open to it. Okay.
Mm-hmm. All right. Kits and Cubs. Not exactly how we expected to start off the show today, but
it's
very
mental health
topic.
right?
We talk about it. We do the mental check-in. That's why. Yes. All right. Kits and Cubs. Yesterday was Drop the Writ Day. DJ, drop the writ. In New Brunswick, we have an election. Now, I'm not sure if Mr. Higgs has yet found the 5 candidates to run in the 5 ridings that he didn't seem to have people just a few days ago yet. Pardon me while I smile and gloat and drink.
Yeah.
But he... oh, gee. I'm already starting this morning. But he did have a bit of a launch. Now, here's the interesting things. I'm used to election campaigns having bigger launches, where the person stands there and they got a podium, they got the sign in front of the podium, and then they have a whole bunch of people behind them.
Right.
Because I remember the 2015 election when Tom Mulcair launched it. He was just on the other side of Parliament Hill, on the side of the bridge near the Alexandria Bridge,
mm-hmm.
and there was just him, a podium, and there was nobody behind him. And everybody was telling me, like, what are you doing? This is an election you can actually win. Why aren't you showing your first day launch with a whole bunch of people behind you
Mm-hmm.
supporting. Why is it just you? Is it just the Tom show? There's no team NDP now. So usually that happens. This did not happen yesterday.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, Susan Holt was the candidate who most sort of did that. She had 3 people with her, but both of them were just sort of like press conferences. So I mean, I understand the incumbent leader or premier going up to a mic and turn around and having to do the thing. You know, I went to see the lieutenant governor today, or in the case of a federal election, I went to see the governor general, and we are now in an election. You announce that, and then you make your opening pitch.
Mm-hmm.
Susan Holtz was more like just a regular everyday announcement. So it wasn't like a real, okay, we're in an election now. It was just like she just had an affordability measure. She just came right out campaigning. The NDP did have a small event, but there's literally all I can find on YouTube is fewer than 3 minutes, fewer than 3 minute clip from it, and there's nothing on the New Brunswick NDP YouTube site from yesterday at all. There's nothing on the leader Alex White's personal Twitter feed from yesterday at all. There's some stuff on the NDP New Brunswick website, like what's going to be happening today, who's on the campaign where. And then for the Greens, there wasn't anything at all that I can tell. The Greens did a video a few weeks ago before the writ period highlighting their leader. And then they did another thing 2 weeks ago. They launched a sort of ad, but it's just people buying something at a market, talking to each other, being sort of friendly with a song in back that has a theme to the song. And then, it just says, I'm David Kuhn, I've approved this message. So there's actually like no words, no pitch, no nothing, just sort of like this general feeling, of that, like people working together, cooperating, shaking hands, building community type thing. Again, which is very odd to me because in a political party, the day of the launch of an election campaign is one of the big money days, one of the big activity days. You make your big splash, you compete for the headlines, you release some ads, you bring your people around.
I didn't know the writ was dropped.
Yeah, it really just sort of like, we kind of know it comes. Yeah, but
I'm like,
so
that should
I
be
don't know
bigger news. I mean, it is a province in Atlantic Canada.
Blaine Higgs has been campaigning for the better part of the last 6-7 months, rather disastrously. So maybe people are just going, oh yeah, okay, so it's finally official, but it's like, big whoop, no change.
Yeah.
So yeah, really interesting. Now later on in the evening, I went to the Twitter feeds of the 4 main parties, and the Progressive Conservatives had a big event, like in a room, stage, lights, all that kind of stuff. So it happened. That did happen on that day. I don't know if it happened for other parties. I would assume that the Progressive Conservative Party of New Brunswick probably has the biggest budget for this type of stuff of all of them.
Probably. Wouldn't surprise me.
Yeah, well, especially since there seems to have been lots of instances of coordination between New Brunswick and Ontario, for example, even New Brunswick and Alberta a little bit, I believe, or Saskatchewan, where the premier has showed up in those provinces the last little bit, and some people might even have come to New Brunswick a little bit to give him a boost. It seems that he needs all the help he can get, because the news coming from him and his side has been terrible for the better part of the year. I mean, he lost about 8 MPs, I think, 8 MPPs, 7 of whom have not.
Are they MPPs or MLAs?
I'm not sure if they're MLAs in New Brunswick. They might.
I can't remember.
See, this is the thing. I wish it was consistent across the damn country.
I don't know why.
I never know which ones have MLAs and which ones have MPPs. And you think I should know this because I'm a political junkie, but I never actually cared that much about that part. So I know Alberta and Quebec have MLAs specifically, and I just assume everybody else is MPP. So if I'm wrong, please correct me. But in New Brunswick, he said he lost over the Policy 713 stuff and a whole bunch of other stuff and becoming a one-man band. He had about 8 people walk away, I think, and 7 of them have not reoffered. at all. They're not even running at all. So that has caused a situation for him where he's had to find incumbents. And since, as the saying goes, the expression online I've seen is that he wants to bring in a church, not a government. There might be fewer people that are down with that to want to run on that type of platform. So that might explain why he's having trouble. But we have a bit of a clip here for you today from his launch, the way he started it. Again, you'd think that this is something that you'd want to be much more rehearsed and polished. Not really. He didn't really. He seems to be phoning it in somewhat. I don't know if he's resigned to the fact that he's going to lose or something, but I don't know. I'm just always like, whether it's real or whether it's fake or manufactured. Hey, everyone, we're going into an election and it's an exciting time and we've got all our team here. Yeah, look at them. Aren't they all beautiful? Thank you so much for coming up. We got our volunteers lined up and we're ready to go. Right?
Yeah, that wasn't the vibe.
Yeah, that was he was very like wah, 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 wah. So, Mr. Grizzly, Wade Higgs.
Just give me a sec here. Sorry, I gotta reset. Yeah, this is anticlimactic.
Yeah.
Oops.
En tant que province, lorsqu'on a été pour la première fois en septembre 2018. Everywhere you look, there are positive signs that not only prove our government has led the province on the right path, but also point to a strong, stable, and improved future. We've turned the province finances around and are proud to have tabled 6 straight balanced budgets. This strong fiscal management has meant that we've reduced the provincial debt by almost $2 billion and are saving tens of millions of dollars on interest payments each and every year. In fact, just this morning, the TD Bank was recognizing the strong fiscal situation of New Brunswick.
Physical?
This matters to New Brunswickers because it means that we're able to boost, we're able to boost spending on public services like healthcare, education, and housing. That includes record spending of $3.9 billion on healthcare in this year's budget alone. We've been building on healthcare workforce and infrastructure. Today, New Brunswickers can seek the healthcare they need from 43 collaborative care clinics, as an example.
I may have just discovered the easiest way for coaches and service providers to find more high-paying premium.
That was unexpected. And I couldn't seem to skip it for some reason. Sorry about that.
Really?
It was really well. Here's the thing. So I have.
We're only a minute and a half in.
I know, that's why I'm surprised.
Right away?
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. So I have 2 YouTube accounts. One for ASMR one I actually pay money. Now my ASMR one I actually pay money because it's too much, right? ASMR channel, I don't get commercials. Logged in on my ASMR channel, I don't get commercials. I get commercials. But the advantage of that is when our show is on YouTube, we get ad revenue, which is why. Anyway, we'll start that over. Ad was unexpected, and that ad was unexpected and
New Brunswickers are benefiting from more physicians than when we were first elected. I'm pleased we've been able to announce an incentive to encourage doctors to see and they see is one less patient on a waiting list. And it's not just doctors. New Brunswick physicians are joined by an increase of 40% more nurse practitioners and an additional 1,200 nurses since 2018. All of which means better health care for New Brunswickers. In addition, we've increased the scope of practice for many pharmacies across the province. New Brunswick is ranked #1 in early childhood education, but there's always more work to do. New Brunswickers are benefiting from record high new housing starts. Tourism is booming. All of this is critically important as our province grows. And our province is growing, which is an indicator of the positive economy and strong community we've been building. We have gone from a province that was losing people because of a lack of job opportunities to a province where people are choosing to live, work, and raise their families. Businesses that once weren't interested in investing here are now choosing our great province. But as much progress as there has been, there is still much work to be done. And our PCNB team is ready to work for New Brunswickers and keep working and keep building on the progress we've made together. I've just met with Her Honour Lieutenant Governor Brenda Murphy to request that election be called. This election is a clear choice for New Brunswickers. Our PCNB team wants to keep building. After stabilizing the province's finances and managing through a global pandemic, we've finally been able to make progress on key issues like healthcare, addiction treatment, economic growth, and more. Lors de cette élection, les New-Brunswickois et New-Brunswickoises ont un choix clair.
New-Brunswickers have a clear choice.
I'm just going to stop that there because he's just basically saying the same thing en français.
Mm-hmm. So, as you can see, not much polish, a lot of stammering, a lot of stumbling, not a lot of confidence. And even the media, for some reason, because this clip here starts in the middle of a sentence, the whole clip actually ends with him in the middle of the sentence as he's answering a question. And you saw even the cameras weren't even properly set up at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
They were zooming in, zooming out as he had already started talking. So it just seems that everybody's,
Yeah.
big deal.
Very strange. Very strange.
It's a very weird thing.
Yeah. Agreed.
Yeah, the continuation there, sir?
Yeah, we can continue on if
Okay.
you like. Sorry. I was really excited this morning for some reason. I don't know why.
We will cut
More.
the HST and increase the cooperation of our healthcare authorities to benefit all patients across the province. We will fight bad ideas from Ottawa, like the Trudeau carbon tax, and relocating nearly 4,600 asylum seekers to New Brunswick. And we'll work to make our streets safer by focusing on getting people the drug treatment they need rather than the free drugs that they want. The Liberals are looking to take...
So he's basically lifting PP's lines.
He's just parroting Skippy's lines.
He literally has no campaign of his own.
None. Zero. The carbon tax, the Trudeau. I'm like, good God, man. Do you have an original thought? No. Is he another puppet of the IDU and Stephen Harper? Just a question. What do they always say? I'm just asking questions.
Yeah. And with regard to the asylum seekers claim, according to Global, claims from New Brunswick Premier Blaine Higgs that Ottawa wants to force the province to take in 4,600 asylum seekers are, quote, largely fictitious, says Federal Immigration Minister Mark Miller. During a speech Wednesday in Moncton, New Brunswick, Higgs said provincial officials were invited to a recent conference call with federal officials who said Ottawa was considering a plan to send asylum seekers to the province without providing financial assistance. Quote, this sudden and unilateral proposal by Ottawa is deeply concerning, and I feel obligated to share the challenges it will bring to our province, he said in a video posted to X, adding that the province is currently home to less than 400 asylum seekers. Higgs also posted a message saying New Brunswick is a welcoming province, just not those people, I guess. But he said accepting so many newcomers would stretch the province's healthcare, education, and housing resources. Quote, we do not have enough housing to make sure both newcomers and people currently living in New Brunswick have a roof over their heads, the message said. We are calling on the Liberal government to drop this plan and instead deal with the backlog of asylum claims that their failed policies have created. Speaking after a Liberal caucus meeting Wednesday in British Columbia, Miller challenged Higgs' remarks, saying that they were, quote, highly irresponsible. Quote, the allegations by Premier Higgs are largely fictitious, Miller said. We at no time have said that we would impose asylum seekers on provinces without financial compensation. He said federal and provincial officials had met during the summer to discuss federal funding and responsibilities for distributing asylum seekers across the country. Quote, in order to move forward, we have to put numbers on the table, and what aspirational numbers would look like, Miller said. The minister said the numbers in question were based on models reflecting each province's population. He said smaller provinces have a responsibility to take in more asylum seekers to lower the pressure on Ontario and Quebec. But he said this does not mean New Brunswick would be forced to take in 4,600 asylum seekers. Miller went on to suggest that New Brunswick ministers had indicated the province didn't want to admit any asylum seekers, regardless of federal compensation, and he confirmed that some other provinces were also opposed to letting them in. Quote, "We would expect the provinces like New Brunswick to do its part, but the last thing we want to see done is for this to be politicized," Miller said. At a news conference on Thursday, Higgs shared a federal document showing the province's proposed share of asylum seekers, not including those already in the province, could be 4,568. Quote, "Minister Miller has put this information out and basically without the supporting documentation of how it's going to work," the Progressive Conservative Premier said. Maybe he needs to take it back to the drawing board and do the assessment of, are these genuine asylum seekers or are they not? New Brunswick Liberal leader Susan Holt accused Higgs of manufacturing a distraction. Quote, "Premier Higgs is once again being reckless and exaggerating the facts while trying to create division and fear about this news on potential asylum seekers. Every one of these distractions allows Higgs to get off the hook from the crisis in healthcare and affordability while playing politics with the lives of vulnerable people." So just wanted to throw that in because you're wondering, like, why the hell is he talking about asylum seekers? That is why. Basically, it seems that there was a process started where the federal government presented some aspirational numbers to open the discussion, and they decided to run to the media and say, this is what they want to impose on us, rather than this is where the conversation is starting, which is what actually happened. Do we have more Mr. Higgs, Mr. Grizzly?
Yes, we do. 1 second here while I cue it back up. I was just checking out something else here. So I noticed something in she was saying how she wished she could speak French so that when she watches pressers, she could understand everything, because sometimes there seem to be hidden meanings in what is said en français. And I want to address that. I want to address that here with, this is from the Toronto Star from just a couple of days ago. And it's about Pierre Poilievre talking about how he wants to have the non-confidence vote. He says, in French, Poilievre made no reference to the Liberals' carbon pricing regime being at the crux of his attempt to bring down the Trudeau government. Poilievre said it would be a motion the Bloc Québécois should support. The Bloc will have to decide if it's going to keep in power the most centralizing, costly, and expansionist prime minister in the country's history, he said. But in English, Poilievre had a different message and made clear his motivation is to trigger an election centered on the carbon pricing regime without mentioning the rebates that go along with the consumer fuel charge. It's time to put forward a motion for carbon tax election. How long does he think he can get away with talking out of both sides of his mouth like that?
They do that all the time. They even have an expression for it in French called deux langues, deux discours.
Yeah.
2 languages, 2 discourses.
It's like, excuse me, do you think we're that stupid? He must think we are.
I don't think that the Conservatives have caught on to the fact that there are certain Quebecers that speak English and French and that listen to English media and notice this and then report back in French to Francophones who don't speak English very well what it is that they're saying about them.
Yeah, that happens constantly. I know. I live that life.
Yes. In the previous election, it was Harper doing it whenever he was talking about oil. Everywhere in Canada, he talked about oil and gas, but when he went to Quebec, he talked about energy.
It's like, dude, they think we're stupid.
Pierre's doing it on the CBC as well, telling everybody in English Canada that he can't wait to sell the CBC headquarters and turn it into housing. But in French, he never mentions taking apart Radio-Canada, though.
Nope, of course not. Ever.
Because that's political suicide in Quebec, saying that you're going to come and mess with Radio-Canada.
Yeah. No, you don't. Yeah. So it's just like this little shit given. Anyway, let's get back to Mr. Blaine Higgs. But I just wanted to address that, because I thought it was important. Because, yes, that does take place. One thing said in one language, something completely different in the other. Okay.
New Brunswick in a completely opposite direction. They oppose cutting the HST, are in favor of programs enabling individuals to continue their addiction rather than recover from them. Residents of our urban centers do not want to see more drugs on the street. And as Susan Holt has refused to speak against anything Justin Trudeau has done, including increasing the carbon tax, proposing to send 4,600 asylum seekers to New Brunswick, or claw back on healthcare funding.
Okay, he just repeated the lie again.
Yep. And he's having trouble getting that lie out. He keeps choking on it.
And now the Green Party has told the media that they are preparing a list of demands that will force Susan Holt to accept in order to get into power. This is a direct page out of the Justin Trudeau Jazz Makes Sing playbook.
Generative AI is...
Oh, come on.
Beware the coalition.
Yeah.
Beware the coalition provincially, though. And based on our interview with Susan Holt, she doesn't strike me as someone who's going to agree to be forced into anything.
No.
Have you met her, Blaine? Because you're
Yeah.
in the same province.
No, I think he's just trying to feign ignorance and tell the lie, make it big, repeat it until often enough it becomes the truth.
But it's like somebody wrote this script like 45 minutes before he delivered it.
You think? It sure does look like it and sound like it. I mean, my goodness.
It's the start of an election campaign, man. All I'm seeing is lazy and sloppy.
Yeah, he did say Jasmeet Singh, but I don't think that was. I think he was struggling between Jagmeet and Jugmeet and mispronounced the name. I think he was trying to say the correct name, honestly, but I could be wrong. Who knows? But
Hey, everybody, it's Jazz Meat.
he looks. Yeah, you're right, Carol. Old white man, typical.
Old white man, yeah.
He looks like a man who just. Why am I here? Why am I here? I don't want to be here right now.
Can this be over? I know I'm going to lose. God, just stick a fork in me already.
Let's just go. I got to say these things so I sound like I know what I'm talking about and like I think I'm going to win, but dude's heart is not in it. PNC.
Baby, oh my God.
It's on the screen.
I'll
read it out for those listening to the audio only version. Maybe that's why he's so. This is from PNC Bio, one of our
masters of sardonic wit.
Yes. Maybe that's why he's so sweaty. He's thinking of manly jazzy meat.
Manly jazzy meat, manly jazzy meat. It's Friday night, it can't be beat. It's manly jazzy meat.
Wouldn't that be a chorus line? Oh, we're the boys of the chorus. We hope you like our show. We know you're rooting for us, but now we have to go. Remember that from Bugs Bunny?
Yes.
Okay. We'll get back on track here.
Title of my next porn flick.
The choice is abundantly clear. We cannot let Susan Holt and David Coode do to New Brunswick what Trudeau and Singh have done to Canada. Le choix est clair. Nous ne pouvons pas laisser Susan Holt.
We can not let Susan Holt and David Coode do to New Brunswick what Trudeau and Singh have been doing with Canada.
We can't afford to wipe away this progress with new, unaffordable plans. It has been a distinct honor to serve as Premier for the past 6 years.
Sounds like he's
alongside my wife, Marcia. As you know, we've been a team now for 46 years. And you know what we do together. And as a result, it gives me the strength and the confidence to continue the momentum and to stay the course to continue the progress that we've seen. Progress that is real, progress that is undeniable, progress that we haven't seen in our province for generations. And yes, it's built new challenges. We know the housing is a challenge because it's certainly keeping up with the demands that we've seen from roughly 90 to 100,000 people. I think our number's now at about 860,000, and it was like 760,000 back in the 2017-18 timeframe. So our team is excited and united to build a stronger New Brunswick and to keep building on the progress we've made thus far.
Feel the excitement yet?
It's not a time to turn back the page and ignore what progress is being made. It's a time to keep building. Merci beaucoup. Thank you. And I'll now take your questions. Or maybe you have questions for Marcia.
Okay.
That was the one cute moment.
That was a cute moment.
Now, we won't be able to hear the questions, unfortunately, but we will be able to hear the answers, so there might be some little sound gaps there.
Okay, well, let's see if we can hear some of this here. Thank you.
Well, there are a number of issues. Obviously, I'm hopeful that people will look a little deeper than what we'll see as probably a continuous string of election promises or possible musings about election promises or concepts that could be adopted. Many people are posturing during this to create that particular issue. So I think that for us, we're focused on making it cheaper for people to work here in the province and live here in the province. For us, we're looking at better ways to utilize the resources we have so we don't have to increase taxes. And when I talk about our two healthcare authorities working together, it's about delivering better service for all New Brunswickers by having the systems that just coordinate their activities and build a better healthcare system. I truly believe we can be the best in the world, certainly the best in Canada. And but we find ways to really maximize our capabilities together. So obviously healthcare is going to be a question, but the point on this is we have a system, we're progressing in the system, we've had 100,000 new people, it's making additional challenges, and I think we have to recognize that growth is creating pain, and it's pain with gain. And I'm hopeful that we will have the support to continue the momentum that we see.
Does he have allergies?
You might, yeah.
I think so.
So we have tremendous candidates around the province, and I think that speaks for itself. I think there may be a couple areas that we'll be solidifying over the next week. But if you look around the entire province and the candidates that have replaced those that we're not reoffering, or we've decided that it was probably the best thing for both concerned, it basically is we have key candidates in those areas. So looking at the program, the fundraising, and how we go forward, it's a continuous process. And I think in an election, we're always looking to have people support us in meaningful ways, whether it be volunteering or whether it be donating. So through the whole campaign, we'll be speaking about having the right resources to put the message out and people to understand what's at stake here. And I think the issue that we have right now, it's pretty clear what's at stake. I mean, this isn't it doesn't matter. It really matters. We've seen what's happened in Canada, and we know what'll happen. We know what happened between 14 and 18, and we know what'll happen in a change in government in the next election.
What is he talking about? We saw what will happen. We saw what happened. We know what is he talking about? What happened? Oh, I'll tell you what happened. No, let me tell you what happened. We have big ticket items like child care for $10 a day, a national dental care program, a national pharmacare program on the way, the child tax benefit, lowered taxes on the working class, the working poor, and the middle class. Oh, yeah. Things are oh so terrible for us. Like, where do they come up with this shit? I mean that. All the evidence there to support that we are better off today than we were 9 years ago is there. How many water drinking restrictions have been lifted on reserves across the country? The child tax credit lifted, 500,000 children out of poverty? Families, women are getting back into the workforce at record numbers because they can afford to go back to work because the $10 a day daycare has made it thus. Where do they come up with this shit? Is it in their mind? Like, I'm serious. I'm really pontificating on this one because it makes no sense to me. All the evidence to say that everything he just said is a complete line of bullshit is right there. It's all there. They just try and bury it, I guess.
Yep.
They just bury it so that they can spin their yarns and their lies and continue to separate us into conservatives. Why do they not say Canadians? Elizabeth May, Justin Trudeau, Jagmeet Singh always say Canadians. Pierre Poilievre and Blaine Higgs always say conservatives. Like they see themselves as a different class of citizen. They don't see us as part of the same country. And that really troubles me. And this has been going on for a while now. And you remember when we had your MP on, Mr. Beaver. Mark Gerritsen, thank you. Well, we had Mark on, and I made mention to him, and he's like, I didn't realize that. How when they were in the House of Commons, and Zelensky, Volodymyr Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, was there, Each leader of each party got up and delivered a speech, and each one said, Canadians will be here to support you, with the exception of the interim leader, Candice Bergen, who said, Conservatives will be here to support you. They see themselves as different, probably better than the rest of us, I would imagine, but they don't seem to think of themselves as Canadians first.
No, they do not.
Which is really troublesome to me. Maybe that answers the question as to why Pierre Poilievre was so bloody silent during the Olympics and Paralympics about congratulating our triumphant athletes. Canada supports you. Canada is proud of you. He didn't say anything till it was all over and done with, because he doesn't see them as conservatives. He sees them as Canadian. Just a speculation on my part. But I mean, really?
Mm-hmm. Right. Let's keep going with the clip of Mr. Hicks.
Okay, back to it.
How's that worked out for Canada with Singh and Trudeau? There's a huge difference. And I think we've seen it. So there wouldn't be really any difference between Susan Holt and David Coon, or Trudeau and Jagmeet Singh. So I would say that there's the illustration, because the philosophies are very different. We have seen the philosophies of the federal government, and we've seen what it's done to Canada. And we've certainly seen what people are thinking about that today. So anyone who thinks it would be different here with a Green Liberal, coalition, it won't be.
I like how he suggests something that is a thing.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where that one left off. It's sort of cut up there. Now, the next clip I'm going to show you, somebody captured from a TV screen about a reporter covering it. And that last question, I think you can kind of sort of put it together, because even though we couldn't hear it, because he's raising the specter of an NDP Green coalition that will do to New Brunswick what the Singh and Trudeau coalition, which is not a coalition, did to Canada. What? Give us dental care, pharmacare, 2 years of stability during a crisis. Like, what?
Yeah.
What was bad about that? You're actually selling it plain. Just the people you're trying to scare aren't scared about that. Like, even right now, polling is indicating, while Pierre Poilievre is like asking everybody, take down the government now. Most Canadians don't want an election now federally, and most Canadians want the parliament's different parties to still work together to come up to stuff. So scaring Canadians about parties working together, cooperating, doesn't scare Canadians. They like that. You're threatening them with a good time.
Yeah. Don't threaten me with a good time.
But here's the thing, when you'll see this journalist talk about it, and my comment was, time of death.
Starting off with the discussion of working together with different parties. So he mentioned that it would be awful if the Liberals and the Green parties were to team up. But our CBC New Brunswick reporter Jacques Poitras asked, well, didn't you team up? Didn't you team up the PC parties with the People's Alliance Party early on in the mandate, early on in your time as premier? And he said, well, yeah, that's different. It's different then, because it's just different philosophies. It's okay when he does it, but not okay, he says, when other parties do it. So starting off.
Oh.
No, it's fine when I do it.
It's okay when I work in a coalition.
But when they do it, it's not.
But
because
it
doesn't suit my needs or tend to my insecurity.
It's the wrong ideologies working together. It's not illegal when the president does it. It's not a trip down to Crazy Town when I do it.
Yeah. Wow.
Time of death. Bring out the paddles.
Wow.
Seriously, opening up a campaign with but no, when I do it, it's different.
Yeah. That's exactly what it is. No, it's okay if I do it. But But I love that somebody called him out on that. I mean, I think that's great. We need more of that.
Oh my
Please.
God. Just, dude.
More of that.
Oh, man. So, yeah. That is Mr. Higgs. Not exactly the strongest debut here. Now, then I'm going to show you a little bit of Susan Holt. And the reason I'm going to show just a little bit is because she goes where Mr. Higgs mostly did whatever the main stuff he did in French at first, and then did mostly English while throwing in a sentence in French here or there. And to be totally honest, that's all he is able to do is throw a sentence in French here or there, which is one of the reasons why the Francophone community in New Brunswick are a little pissed off at him, because he swore up and down, left, right, and center, and all around that he would do his best to learn French.
Well, he did,
and then he didn't.
He doesn't speak it well, but he did speak it.
Yes, but you can always tell the people who have worked at it, because the people who haven't really worked at it just did the phonetic pronunciation thing, and they deliver one sentence.
Yes,
some of the most simple,
which is what he
sentences
did.
that you can, like this, and then go back. Whereas people that actually put some work into it, like Elizabeth May, for example, who hardly spoke a lick of it when she came on the scene, and now she doesn't. She answers like full questions without looking at notes. Now, right? She actually worked at it.
Yes, she put in the effort.
Right. So he leads Canada's only officially bilingual province. He's the premier.
Correct.
He has all the resources. He gets his French language training for free. Doesn't have to pay for it. Can get the absolute best teachers to be available on, like I have an hour between these two things. Come to my office. Let's do some drills or something.
Exactly.
He's got all the resources. He just chose not to. It was not a priority. He tried everything and had no solutions. I tried nothing. I tried nothing and I'm all out of ideas.
Yeah, that was from The Simpsons. We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas, man.
I mean, it's pretty sad.
I just sent you a link in the private chat, sir. I want you to have a look at that.
Right. The other thing that's not going very well for Mr. Higgs is that Angus Reid came out with its rankings, I guess, or its approval ratings for the premiers. They do this every few months, and according to Angus Reid, it would appear that Mr. Higgs is the least popular of all the premiers in Canada. Mr. Grizzly, if you put up this graph for the kids to see. But premier approval September 2024, you got Wab Canoe at 66% approval.
That's pretty high.
Daniels, and then everybody else is under 50. Daniel Smith at 46 and Fury at 46. Once again, two of the three premiers with the highest approval rating. Sorry, three of the four are either NDP or Liberal. So Canoe, Smith, Fury, and Eby. Then Moe, then Houston, and all of them are at over 40. But then we got Legault at 39, who's gaining a little popularity, Ford at 31, and Higgs at 30. People just do not like him. And I will remind you again that as of September 27th, not September 27th, August 27th, this is what polls were showing. So you can see that there's been a pretty much steady decline for the New Brunswick Progressive Conservatives since September 2023. Straight line down. That coincides with the rise for the Liberals in terms of odds of winning the election. And then in terms of seats at the last polling, they're both tied with Minority Party 23. The Greens will come in with 3. And then you have the PANB party that looks like they're going to get 0 here.
The PANB, what the hell are they?
Oh, that's that was the party, I believe, that Blaine Higgs had as coalition. with.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I
But it
think
was
it
called
used to be
something else
called
at
the
the time.
Confederation of Regions or
Okay.
something. Now it's called the People's Alliance of New Brunswick Party. But I think it might have been the core of the Confederation of Regions, I think, back in the day. So those 3 seats from the Greens, I guess and this actually doves in with the conversation we were having the other day, like this, what have the Greens done? I mentioned that the Greens are stronger in the provinces. Because sometimes it's happened more than once that in some of the provinces, the Greens actually get to hold the balance of power.
Well, and it's still, I don't understand why. So the Green Party is, we talked about this the other day, progressive conservative party that cares about the environment. And it ties in well with Elizabeth May leading the party because who was the greenest prime minister we ever had? Progressive conservative Prime Minister Brian Mulroney. But for some reason, the Green Party is painted as the extreme left.
Yeah.
Tree hugging. I'm like, but that's not what they are. They've never been that. But somehow they got labeled that way and have done very little.
They got
to shed
defined by the Conservatives because the Conservatives didn't want any competition on the right. If Canadians started looking at the Green Party as an alternative, a center-right party,
yes,
because that has an environmental conscience, well, that would definitely cut into their base now. So they worked very hard. It's environment, you are left. Boom, boom. Bicycle riding, granola munching, tree hugging, Birkenstock wearing, hippie freaks.
I know, but they aren't. They never have been. And that's the thing that because you and I have talked about, we'd like to see a healthy progressive conservative party in this country again, because it doesn't exist anymore. That is a true statement. The Conservative Party is not progressive. It is the Reform Party under a new name. But the Green Party is a progressive conservative party. Much like the NDP in the prairies is a progressive conservative party.
Yeah,
they are.
And here's the other thing. If I saw those premier approval rating results, if I was the premier in any other province except for Manitoba, I would be like the elite sport teams. Like this, in a room, huddled with video, watching Wab Canoe doing this thing all the time and taking damn notes and then trying to do the same damn thing. I guess I'd be...
But it won't, because so many of these...
I'd be the now former assistant coach of the Canadian women's national soccer team with a drone outside Wab Canoe headquarters trying to film his practice.
It won't happen, though, because so many premiers, especially the current lot that we have, are so convinced they're damn right about everything. I mean, Doug Ford came out and said, "Oh, I just don't believe that safe consumption sites work." But Doug, it's not your opinion. You need to base something like that upon actual facts with empirical evidence to back it up. You made a statement because you have a feeling. It's not how science works. You might have a hunch in science and try an experiment and it blows up in your face. But we're talking about people's lives here.
Yep. So we're going to move on to Susan Holt. We'll play a little bit, and she has a policy announcement. And I will mention to you, if you're not in New Brunswick, why this policy announcement is somewhat important and an interesting choice of contrast.
Okay, here we go. It is plain. There's just seems to be...
Good morning, New Brunswick. Bonjour tout le monde du Nouveau-Brunswick. Bienvenue à la campagne de l'élection 2024. Welcome to campaign 2024. I am here in the Miramichi with my amazing team, Mark Hambrook, Veronique Arsenault, and Sam.
See, I recognize that right away.
Yes.
I'm like,
you were just there.
Well, not only that, I lived on that base. That's former CFB Chatham.
There you go.
Recognize those are wartime housings. That's military housing. I recognize that immediately. I'm like, that looks like the Miramichi. Sure enough, she says that. I'm like, yep, I know exactly where she is. Matter of fact, I think the house on the left I used to live in.
Oh, there you go.
I could be wrong, but it certainly looks like it.
I'm Johnson to talk to you today about something that my colleagues and I have been hearing about all over the province. New Brunswickers are struggling with the cost of living. They're struggling to pay their bills. They're choosing between food and heat, kids' clothing and medication, because the rising cost of living is impacting us all. Nous sommes ici parce que notre équipe est à l'écoute. Ici au Miramichi, puis autour de la province, on entend que les Néo-Brunswickois ont de la difficulté à payer pour les choses essentielles comme l'essence, l'épicerie, l'électricité. We've been listening to New Brunswickers telling us about their struggle. And so a Holt government, I'm excited to be here today to commit to you that a Holt government will make your life more affordable by eliminating the provincial sales tax off of your residential electricity bill. Nous sommes heureuses et fiers d'être ici aujourd'hui pour vous promettre qu'un gouvernement Holt va éliminer la taxe provinciale sur vos factures résidentielles d'électricité. Unlike the Higgs tax cut, this is a commitment that will provide affordability relief that New Brunswickers need right now. You shouldn't have to spend money to save money. We're going to apply this 10% tax cut to bills that you are already paying today so that you can save money immediately. Pour notre équipe, c'est pas comme l'équipe Higgs où vous devez dépenser de l'argent pour sauver. Notre aide et notre enlève de 10% de la taxe va vous aider aussitôt que possible avec des factures que vous payez aujourd'hui. We want to talk a little bit about who's impacted by this because a lot of New Brunswickers are feeling the costs of inflation. And we have a report from the Human Development Council that tells us that more than a third of electricity users in New Brunswick struggle to pay their bills. And 13% of those customers have missed payments. Il y a beaucoup de personnes qui ont de la difficulté avec leurs factures d'électricité. Le Conseil de développement humain de Saint-Jean nous dit que plus d'un tiers des utilisateurs de l'électricité résidentielle ont de la difficulté à payer les factures et 13% des autres ont manqué un paiement. So it's for those people that we are thrilled to talk about this tax reduction today. Here's how the solution is going to work. We are going to take the PST off of power bills, and that means that New Brunswickers would save, on average, $192 a year. For some New Brunswickers, like a woman that I spoke to in the Hanwell Mobile community who's paying $324 a month plus an additional amount at the end of the year, she's going to save $489 a year on her power bills with this tax reduction from the Holt team. Cette solution va réduire les factures pour les Néo-Brunswickois par à peu près 192 dollars par année pour les familles de Nouveau-Brunswick. Et ceux qui dépensent plus, comme une femme que j'ai parlé à un terrain de maison mobile, qui dépense 324 dollars par mois, elle vit tout seule, elle peut sauver 489 dollars par année. Une dépense réelle pour elle qu'elle dépense aujourd'hui, puis notre réduction de taxe de 10% va l'aider.
All right. So the reason I'm putting this out is because Blaine Higgs is running on an old Harper idea of cutting 2% off the harmonized sales tax. So taking 2% off basically the GST, but now it's an HST. So basically when Susan Holt says you have to spend money to save money. Now, to be totally honest, you're spending money on your electricity bill too. So you're spending money to save money. But it's being framed as this is money you're spending already. Whereas, a 2% cut on the GST is very usually, or HST is very rarely marketed on, every time you go get groceries, you're going to save this much. It's more like, hey, if you buy a house, it will cost this much less. If you buy a car, it will cost this much, a big ticket item, right? Because that's where the number becomes somewhat impressive. Because really, they're promising to save you 2 cents on a dollar.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
2 cents on a dollar. Like, now, I don't know if you all survived the Harper years, but did you notice that 2 cents on the dollar with the GST cut when he cut it from 7 to 5?
No, but tax revenue certainly did go down.
But when they talk to you about like trickle down,
yeah,
there's literally nothing that's more peeing on your leg in a very, very slow drip than, hey, I'm going to save you 2 cents on the dollar.
Woohoo!
Right? It's like you don't make plans on that. You don't turn around and say, hey, 2 cents on the dollar, I could buy a new skateboard and take a trip around the block this year.
Well, I remember years ago, I on my way back from Mont-Tremblant after a ski weekend, I stopped in at a Petrocan to fill up. and the receipt spit out, and at the bottom it said, it's I can't remember who was the premier of the province of Quebec at the time. It said so and so's share, and then it said Steve-O's share.
Yes, I believe that. Yes, I remember that.
You remember that?
Yeah, I do remember that. Yes. Yeah. Okay, so we're going to move
I thought that
forward
was pretty
there
funny.
in this one to about 7 minutes for the question and answer session, because that's really where things get a little more interesting. But basically, contrasting tax policies right on day one. Boom.
Well, I like this from Saucy. I have a joke about trickle-down economics, but 99% of you will never get it. It's good because that's accurate. Okay, let's go. Here we are.
Has been listening to you. We hear your challenges with the cost of living, and we are proud to provide targeted tax relief, a 10% tax cut on your power bill immediately when a Holt government takes office. Thank you for following along online today. Merci pour être aujourd'hui. Je prends des questions du média.
I wish we could hear the questions.
Yeah, me too.
Oui, le 90 millions de dollars vient de l'augmentation des revenus du TVH qu'on a vu dans les projections du gouvernement. On a vu que M. Higgs a encore un surplus de 50 millions de dollars parce qu'on a une augmentation sur notre TVH du gouvernement. Alors, dans cette augmentation, on va trouver le 90 millions de dollars.
Okay, so she's basically asked where they can find the money like this, and I didn't quite fully understand the technicalities of the answer, unfortunately, so I can't really translate it to you. But in the answer that she mentioned that the current government is running a surplus, so there's probably some room in there to go get the money.
Okay. Yeah, the lack of being able to hear the questions is very frustrating.
Yes. Because you learn as much from the questions as you do from the answer, right?
Au moment, pour faire des changements de l'efficacité qui sont des incitatifs pour faire des achats pour aider à l'efficacité des maisons, et aussi on a vu le programme de thermopompe. Alors, ils vont avoir d'autres communications et d'autres promesses au niveau de cela, mais nous autres, on veut de l'aide qui est simple et qui est possible aussitôt que possible pour du monde qui ont vraiment besoin de cette aide. Alors, ceci, c'est une façon vite, sans beaucoup d'administration, sans beaucoup de bureaucratie, qu'on peut aider à réduire les taxes que les Néo-Brunswickois et Néo-Brunswickoises payent.
Okay, so basically from the answer, I'm guessing that this was a question about helping people to save costs with regard to how much they're paying for heat and things involving greenhouse gas emissions. And she says that there are plans to make some changes to the programs to increase housing efficiency, including heat pumps. But the cut on the electricity is a savings that she can deliver right now with not much additional bureaucracy.
Okay.
Nathan DeLong, Brunswick News. I'd like to ask you about your party's stance on forced rehab legislation. I understand the NDP government in BC has promised to update the Mental Health Act to allow for involuntary care for people with severe addictions or who are mentally ill. Given BC was an early adopter of harm reduction and is now moving forward forced rehab, is it causing you to pause?
So this question is about harm reduction in mental illness and addictions.
I think it's really important that New Brunswick build out the kind of residential treatment facilities that New Brunswickers who are struggling need. We have far too many people who are challenged with mental health issues and addictions issues that don't have any place to go to get the kind of long-term support and help they need for their journey to recovery. So we certainly want to see more of those residential treatment facilities across the province. And we know that there are more people who want to go into those facilities and get that help today than we have beds to serve. And so we are looking forward to putting those kinds of facilities in place to serve the people who are ready to take that step on their journey.
I also understand, Ms. Holt, the NDP government in BC hired a doctor to serve as chief scientific advisor for psychiatry, toxic drugs, and concurrent disorders, and develop its proposed changes to their Mental Health Act. So would a Holt government in New Brunswick create such a position to advise it on any proposed legislative or policy changes to deal with the addiction and mental health crisis?
Well, that's a great question, Nathan, because we've certainly seen with the Higgs government that they're not interested in data or evidence and what actually proves that a policy might take the effect that you want. So our team is very much committed to having the evidence and the research and the experts that show us how we can help reduce the amount of people suffering from mental health and addictions in New Brunswick. That's one of the reasons why we have amazing team members like some of these folks here who have direct experience working in this space, like Dr. John Dornan, who has direct experience in this space. We will listen to the experts, we will follow the data and evidence, and put in place the policies that will actually reduce the amount of New Brunswickers that are struggling with mental health and addictions.
Do you find it interesting that Blaine Higgs just parroted what Pierre Poilievre says? We talked about this a few minutes ago, right?
Yep.
But he's just parroting the same lines. The same thing Doug Ford. It's like, are they getting orders from Stephen Harper on this? Filtering down to Pierre Poilievre, who then reaches out to each provincial premier who's a conservative and says, hey, here's what we need to do. Now, they haven't gone as far as calling them drug dens, but how soon before you hear Doug Ford say that, or Blaine Higgs, or, well, Danielle Smith is in her own world, so forget about her. But we're going to address something from her. I sent you that link in the private chat. If you had a look at it, we'll address that shortly.
We'll address that, shortly. There's
because, yikes.
Yep.
But let's continue.
So just so I'm clear, how government would commit to having such a position in place?
I think the position actually already exists right now. There are experts in the Department of Health that are responsible for mental health and addictions. There's some great people there that are doing this work. Unfortunately, they haven't been listened to by a premier that takes his ideas from outside and from partisan direction rather than from the experts that exist in New Brunswick today.
Thank you.
Any questions? Thanks very much. Merci beaucoup.
So there you go. A much better performance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Actual original ideas of her own, not just lifted copy. Right?
Yes.
So yeah. It's less than impressive from Blaine Higgs. Now, of course, and clearly, Susan is in the lead with Francophone New Brunswickers. But
reasons.
even though the polls are indicating that she has a 7-point lead in popular vote intentions, it still ends up to the same amount of seats because the way things are divided up there.
Right.
So she does need to make some type of appeal to Anglophones in some way. Because it seems that she's a little behind. It seems that more of the Anglophone population seems to favor more the progressive conservatives. But like I mentioned, if this is going to be the type of campaign that Blaine Higgs is going to run, just repeating PP slogans and doing his pre-publicity for him in the province for the next federal, I'm not sure he's going to go far in this one. I mean, he's the incumbent, but he's the underdog.
Right.
In some type of way. Now, here we got a couple of minutes for you from the NDP from New Brunswick, and this is literally all I was able to find. I wasn't even able to find a newspaper article.
Wow. Okay.
Now, I understand that they don't have any seats right now, I think, and so they're probably working on an extremely small budget. But notice that he too managed to have people behind him, and like for a very small budget, at least this guy looks like he's trying.
Yes. Well, and you notice that right here, this QP, right?
Yeah.
New Brunswick QP. I think QP is the largest or second largest union in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Canadian Union of Public Employees. I can't remember the numbers, but anyway. Here's something else you need to know about QP. Something like 50%, it might be. I can't remember the numbers now, so I'm sorry. I'll look them up later. There's a large percentage of their union members that are paid basically minimum wage or a little bit above it across the country. So when people go, I want to get one of those high-paying union jobs, they're not all high-paying. And they fight for better wages. So if you're part of a union and all they can get you is just above minimum wage, that gives you an idea of how hard corporations and owners hammer the hell out of their employees to squeeze every last penny out of them. That's just my own observation. Here we go.
2024. This is a big election. The province is in a lot of crises, but this is an exciting moment. People are fed up with what they've got. They want a break. New Brunswickers deserve a break. They need a break from the cost of living. They need a break from the cost of housing. They need a break from wait times in the healthcare system. They need a break from all of these problems, and they need a break from the parties who have perpetuated them for the last several decades, especially the ones that have exacerbated them in this most recent term. The fact is that New Brunswick NDP offers a break. We offer people to have a chance to look at what is really important to them. No division of hate or bigotry. That's just distracting you from the problems that are actually in your lives. The fact is we have a campaign of hope. We have a campaign of optimism. We have a campaign that's going to do real, practical things to make people's lives better. We're going to give a grocery rebate to the lowest earners in the province. We're going to increase taxes on the most wealthy because they are bringing us their wealth and their expertise, and they need to contribute to that level. These are not taxes that are new. These are taxes that existed and were removed by the most recent government. We're going to restore it so that everyone pays their fair share, that everyone can have a break, everyone can benefit from the wealth and the beauty and the prosperity of our province, which deserves better than to have people living in tents on the street. It deserves better than to have massive fees to go to the broken a bone or you're having an emergency. They've been getting. And we can actually have better. That's the point. They're promising you minuscule little changes. They're trying to bribe you with potential tax breaks. We've heard it all before. It's just another promise that they're going to break. When it comes down to it, there really is a single progressive party. People are working in a call center, whether you're working in government, whether you're working in a factory, whether you own your own business, there is a single party that's actually going to advocate for you, your rights, and what you need. And that is the New Brunswick NDP. And it's our mission to show you that we're going to do it. Let's give you a break.
Was this held on the side of a highway? Like, my goodness, I could barely hear
So
it.
here's the thing. Again, when you have a small team, you don't necessarily have the best scouters,
Yeah.
right? So he was in front of Area 506 Container Village in
Oh,
St.
okay.
John, is where he launched the campaign. His name is Alex White. He describes himself as a musician and a storyteller on his own Twitter feed. Basically, a longstanding party member for 20 years, a resident of St. John, and proudly works to resettle newcomers to the province. So that's his background. So that was basically all I was able to find from the New Brunswick NDP. It seems that they've been doing some radio stuff. They've had one of their candidates, Tyler Boulay, I think his name is, Ty Boulay, participate in some discussions in certain places, and they've had a couple of Discord events. So they're trying to do it, on a small budget. But despite, other than the noise coming from the location, it was actually a better press availability than what Blaine Higgs offered.
Yeah. No,
And he's got the budget and the benefit of the incumbency.
Yeah.
So that's a little, I don't know how to call it, disappointing. I guess, from Blaine Higgs. It just gives you the contrast of how, Blaine. The thing with Blaine Higgs is that we're really seeing, it's confirming, basically, that it's a one-man show thing from him, because he's there alone. Now, the final bit I have for you here, video clip wise, is David Kuhn, the leader of the Green Party, this is not from yesterday. This is a clip that he put out about a month ago. So again, in the pre-writ period, but trying to define himself. Now, he has been there for a while, so his name is not completely unknown to New Brunswickers, because Green Party leaders tend to remain in their position for a good long while. So he became the leader of the Green Party in 2012. So by now, New Brunswickers are somewhat familiar with him, and he's very respected. So don't let the fact that he's only standing at 3 seats or whatnot fool you. But he's very respected. He's a bit like the Mike Schreiner in New Brunswick. People know him. He's respected. But again, he's leading the party that people don't vote for because they assume going in that they don't have a chance of winning, right? So this is something that he presented in order to, I guess, introduce himself better to those who don't yet know him. I'm not sure if we have a bit of a delay here.
Having technical difficulties here.
There we go.
As a boy, whenever I visited my grandparents' farm, I was expected to chip in, helping with everything from bagging grain on the combine to gathering sap from the sugar bush. And that's where I first developed a respect for nature. My grandfather taught me that the natural world can sustain us with food, drinking water, clean air, and energy. He also taught me about how important community life is to sustaining us. My grandparents were embedded in their community in so many different ways. They knew that flourishing communities are just as important to our well-being as maintaining nature's balance. When I graduated high school, I wanted to pursue a career in science, so I attended McGill, where I earned a Bachelor of Science in Biology. Industrial contaminants and pesticides builds health and destroying wildlife populations. I wanted to use science to help stop this, but I eventually came to realize that while good science is essential to making change, it's not sufficient. So I went on to work in environmental advocacy and education, most of it with the Conservation Council of New Brunswick. My wife Janice grew up on Grand Manan, and her dad was a fisherman, and later he managed a sardine factory in Seal Cove. Janice worked as a public school teacher, then at the Conservation Council of New Brunswick, in marine conservation, and now she's a professor at St. Thomas University. We have 2 wonderful daughters who grew up in rural Charlotte County, just outside St. Stephen. More than enough potatoes and corn for our family, and pumpkins galore to give away to our daughters' friends every Halloween. We had great neighbors and good friends, just as we do here in Fredericton. You know, when I was younger, I had zero interest in getting into politics, but my thinking changed about 15 years ago, as the old parties seemed to be increasingly focused on getting and retaining power for as long as they could, and not on much else. As a result, serious problems in health and seniors care, education, housing, the environment, climate just got kicked down the road. So I couldn't just sit around. I became the leader of the New Brunswick Green Party in 2012, and then was elected to represent the people of Fredericton South in 2014. Since then, we've seen even more growth, with Megan Mitten and Kevin Arsenault being elected as Green MLAs in 2018 for Tantramar and Kent North. I know New Brunswickers have seen the positive impact that Megan, Kevin, and I have had in the province over the past 6 years. I think New Brunswickers are ready for a government that doesn't try to hide their communities, and everyone, their communities, and a government that is willing to share decision-making power, actually share with your communities to better serve the public good. Leadership matters in this election. It's time for a change for the better. We all feel it, But for change to happen, New Brunswickers need to change their vote. And that's why I'm asking you to put your trust in me and vote for your local Green candidate in this election.
So apologies for those watching for the choppy images. I think that was maybe at from YouTube, not necessarily us. But see, again, decent, hardworking man, community involved. It's been around for a while, right? The typical profile of a Green candidate. And here you see.
Blow that up.
It's in French, so.
Oh, okay.
But basically, it says here today the Green Party of New Brunswick held a rally at the Delta Hotel in Fredericton to launch the electoral campaign 2024. The green is the color of change. In discussing with people from the province this summer, I heard several times at what point they have had enough of the two old parties. That the two old parties keeps sending back the problems in health, in lodging, and in climate to the calendar, the Greek calendars. I promise, as Greens, that we will be by your side and that we will put in place the solutions that are already at our disposal to solve the problems. The problems that New Brunswickers confront. So that's basically the clip. But there again, you see his rally. Lots of people all around, right? Again, confirming the concept that Blaine Higgs, again, is a one-man band. And this is the one that I really liked. Find yourself a partner who looks at you the way Kevin Anderson looks at David Kuhn. I'm guessing this is Kevin Arsenault, not Anderson, Arsenault, sorry. So those were basically the first days for each of the four major parties here. I don't see anything. I didn't look up the PANB, to be totally honest. So I should probably do that to bring you something to be completely fair there. So I will do that at some point later today to see if there was anything from them. But that's the launch. So we're on our way. This is the first of the 3 provincial elections that will be held next month, according to Canada's election calendar. There are other elections, of course. There'll be municipal elections in Yukon on October 17th and in Nova Scotia on October 19th. Hey, saucy. But the provincial ones, October 19th in British Columbia, October 21st, in New Brunswick, and then October 28th in Saskatchewan. So there'll be 3 provincial elections basically in 9 days. We's gonna be busy. So yes, we'll try to present some Focus New Brunswick stuff and some Focus Saskatchewan stuff and some Focus British Columbia stuff. For those of you who will be following the British Columbia election, I wrote to our friend Tim Krutzman, who's been on our show before, teacher in British Columbia, who is very politically engaged, and he has agreed that he will come back on our show to give us his thoughts on the lay of the land as we get into election season, which we'll have to pre-record, of course, because he's in British Columbia, and we're not going to ask him to get up at 4 a.m.
No, that would be kind of cruel.
That would be kind of cruel. And I was a very busy Beaver yesterday. I reached out to people in Saskatchewan. I wrote, I sent an invitation to Premier David Eby or someone else from the BC New Democrats. I sent one to the Leader of Opposition in Saskatchewan, Carla Beck, or someone else from the party who could come. And I do intend to send a note to Susan Holt to see if she would like to come back during the election. And I will send
I know she's going to be really busy, though, but if she can make some time, carve out.
Exactly. And I will send something to Alex White and David Kuhn as well. I will send also to Premier Higgs to see if he will, but I somehow have a feeling that his campaign is going to be very, 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 very contained, very choreographed, and extremely scripted. So I have a feeling he might not have time in his busy schedule.
Yeah.
So,
shall we go to the Bay of Quinte?
Yes, we need to go to the Bay of Quinte because that's a big deal. There were by-elections in Ontario yesterday. And Bay of Quinte, again, as I mentioned on the show, the Liberal candidate was very, very strong. It wasn't it was a bigger victory than federal by-elections,
Yes.
than La Salle-Villemar. But still, the Conservatives, progressive Conservatives in Ontario, with the big lead that they have in the polls, managed to get 38.61% of the vote, and the Liberals got 33.34% of the vote. So they are competitive. This, if they have a quality candidate. The NDP candidate got 23.11%, and then the Green Party candidate got 3.19%. Another case of people on who are centrist and left of center not wanting to choose a candidate, each of them thinking that they can win because the votes were certainly there if there was a little collaboration like there was in Elmwood-Transcona to keep the progressive Conservative out. But it seems that in Ontario, Liberals and New Democrats are still more interested in fighting each other than in cooperating to make sure that the guy who's making all our lives miserable has a bad day. So,
and we remember
we are.
in a debate during the last provincial election in the province of Ontario where Andrea Horwath just sat there and hammered the Liberal candidate who was not in a position of power during the previous government. If you're both, like, I don't believe that Andrea Horwath actually follows any of the criteria or the beliefs of the NDP. I really don't.
She certainly shows she hasn't since she's become the mayor of Hamilton.
No, and all she did was sit there and shit on the Liberal. And I'm like, why are you attacking that guy? You're supposed to be attacking Doug Ford, the current premier. What are you doing? Like, you're just ripping us apart. So it makes me think she's actually a conservative, a wolf in sheep's clothing. And it certainly looks like it by what she's doing to the city of Hamilton.
Yeah, indeed. So that's basically the news
for Quinte,
like
but
more of the same.
Let's go to Alberta now.
Okay.
Because I want to address this. UCP members want to debate private healthcare, abortion, and Marxism. Okay. So one of the things that that they talked about in this event that took place was how they want to, multiple policy proposals would affect transgender Albertans. One proposes to restrict exclusively female spaces and categories to biological females who are females at conception and their young children. This would include, per the resolution, washrooms, change rooms, shelters, dormitories, sports categories, and award ceremonies. Females deserve the freedom to undress with dignity without the presence of any males, the resolution says. Okay. The Constituency Association for Drayton Valley Devon proposes that all prospective teachers take one university 3-credit course on the origins and negative consequences of Marxism and communism. At least one of the proposals of education the resolution suggests is to ensure that students become active members of the communities and governments. A 3-credit course in the history of Marxism and the rise of communism clearly details the evils of that philosophy, the mass murders, starvation, propaganda, and fear narratives, contrasting that with the superiority of the capitalist free world view should be in the wheelhouse of each educator when asking students to engage in our democracy.
Sounds like the UCP is trying to indoctrinate the teachers.
You think? Abortion in Alberta is publicly funded. A resolution from the Athabasca Barhead Westlock Constituency Association proposes to cut funding for late-term abortion, unless the mother's physical health is in jeopardy. The purpose, it says, is to encourage an earlier abortion when one is desired and there is plenty of time for the decision to be made. As it stands, any abortions done in Alberta after 20 weeks must be approved by 2 doctors. Most abortions happen early in pregnancy, according to Alberta Health Services, but the province doesn't track abortions by gestational age. Healthcare. Private healthcare is a routine boogeyman in provincial and federal elections. In 2006, a Supreme Court decided in a ruling that applies only to Quebec that a prohibition on private health insurance violated Quebecers' rights. It is time we recognize in policy the need to establish a level playing field for all provinces, and doing so provides a clear and organized framework for all patients, says a resolution that proposes to allow Albertans to access private surgical services via private insurance. This is where it gets weird. And this part is what spurred me to read this to you. Another policy proposal posits that the Alberta government should promote, in quotation, natural birthing, as opposed to cesarean sections. It argues that C-sections place greater strain on the medical system, and the province must act to reverse this dangerous trend. Natural childbirth is, of course, a natural process that has many medical benefits beyond measure for both the mother and child, the resolution says. There's also a proposal to ban COVID-19 mRNA vaccines.
Now, the one about the natural birthing, the very first comment I saw about that on any socials anywhere is a woman subtweeting this thing and saying, that policy would have killed me.
Yes. Yes. It would have killed my sister. It literally would have killed my sister. She had to have an emergency C-section to save her life and the life of her firstborn son.
Yeah. That's like we were talking about the other day. It's like refusal to provide dilation and curettage to women who have not fully expelled the fetal tissue, because it's somewhat tangentially related somewhat to abortion, even though the condition we're trying to prevent here is sepsis.
Right. These people are...
Even though people without having an abortion sometimes have miscarriages.
Yes.
And need the D&C. But you can't get it. That's in the States, of course. But again, this type of policy right here proposed. Now, this is not officially proposed by the UCP yet.
No.
It's proposed by members for them to be discussed as saying, no C-sections either. So you die. So again, pro-life my ass.
Yeah, not pro-life. They're pro-control over women's bodies. Listen to this now. This is one more thing and then I'll close this off and we can have one more thing before we wrap up for the day. In social issues, another proposal calls on the provincial government to eliminate diversity, equity, and inclusion within the provincial civil service and in Crown corporations. It also proposes that hiring be done solely on the basis of merit, regardless of race, gender, or creed. They got to slip that last part in there to make it sound like they give a shit.
Right. Indeed. They also have other things. For example, federal politicians have been complaining how to restrict pornography to only adults. The resolution calls on the Alberta government to lobby for prohibition on minors accessing adult websites and to allow citizens to pursue legal action against these websites.
That already exists.
I know. They're also looking at strong mayor legislation.
Yeah.
Because, Danny doesn't like city councils run by brown people.
She just wants to take over.
Yeah. So, yeah, they're again, it's a red meat fest in Alberta right now because someone's got a leadership review coming. And it seems as well that the majority of people in Alberta, particularly in Edmonton and Calgary, I believe there was some polls recently, stated that they would like a new premier, please. According to City News Calgary, headline, I didn't create them, Smith said of Alberta's problems when asked about unfavorable new poll. The majority of Albertans living in Edmonton and Calgary want a new premier, according to a new Maru public opinion poll commissioned by City News. It found only 32% of Edmontonians believe Daniel Smith deserves re-election. In Calgary, that number is 37%, while more than 50% in each city agreed it's time for a change. Already. She has broken so many things in the little bit of time that she's been there that they already want her out. The premier seemed unfazed by the numbers Wednesday. Of course, she's unfazed by everything.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah, yeah.
except not being able to get a box seat. Sorry.
No need to apologize.
There we
Truth
go.
be told.
While telling City News that she's busy working to solve issues facing Albertans. Quote, when you get elected, you have to make some tough decisions. And what we're doing is we're being honest with Albertans about the things we need to do. Yes, being honest, like telling them that they're going to get an electricity exemption and then come back and tell them, no, that was just a deferral. Or, hey, we're going to give you an income tax cut. But, no, first we have to put some money in the Heritage Savings and Trust Fund until something goes terribly, terribly, terribly wrong, like a wildfire taking out a third of Jasper. And then all of a sudden, hey, that tax cut we said we couldn't give you. Well, here it is. We're not going to let anybody touch that mountain, trust me. And then quietly in the background, one of the world's richest people, the richest woman in Australia, suddenly the project is still moving forward somehow. Yeah. We're identifying problems and we're fixing them. It takes a little bit of time to address all the problems, but look, I didn't create them. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, you did.
I'm just here to solve them, and so I'm looking forward to continuing to hear feedback from Albertans. Smith polled closer to 50% split in both cities when people were asked whether or not she's doing a good job. The survey of 400 Edmontonians and 401 Calgarians was done in late August and early September before the Premier's Tuesday night announcement of $8.6 billion for new schools, a lot of them going to private charter schools. Tom Vernon, a strategic communications consultant with Crestview Strategy and a former legislature reporter, says Smith might get a popularity bump from that investment. At the same time, Vernon is not surprised to see low numbers in cities, especially after Smith spent the summer traveling rural Alberta, pitching strongly conservative ideas, trying to build support for her leadership review in November. Quote, that's been her audience. I imagine after that, if she gets the mandate she wants to get, we'll start seeing grander investments and greater attention paid to cities, Vernon told City News. Conservatives like Smith and her UCP are traditionally more popular in rural Alberta or communities on the outskirts of big cities like Leduc. City News drove south of Edmonton to gauge how people in that UCP-held riding are feeling about Premier Smith. Quote, I think she's good for Alberta. I just like her attitude. She stands up to Trudeau, said Leduc resident Gordon McGetchie. I think she's trying her best. I sure would vote Smith again, said Elaine Wagner. I think it was a rushed decision having Danielle Smith as Premier, and I hope to see somebody new in the future, said Phil Holmes, who said he's an NDP supporter because education funding is important to his family. Smith still has about 3 years before a general election.
Mm-hmm.
Lord help Albertans.
Well, the thing that troubles me is when there's she stands up to Trudeau, okay, except why is that a good thing? Like literally nobody can tell. Well, because he's done more for the province of Alberta than any prime minister in history. Period. End of story. That's not an argument. That's a verifiable fact. He has done more to help the province of Alberta than Stephen Harper did.
He built them a damn pipeline.
Who took more in CERB and CEWS than any other province in the country? Alberta. Who provided that program? The federal government, led by Justin Trudeau.
He gave them money to clean up the abandoned old wells, and they turned around and said, you know what? Nah, take this $137 million. We don't want it. They refused money.
I just don't understand. People are brainwashed. So much so that I got into it yesterday and I backed away after a few minutes. A guy I used to play hockey with went on about how much he loves Trump and Trump's policies and his border plan. And I'm like, are you serious? I go, you want a convicted felon as the president? Oh, that's a joke. Nobody was harmed. He stole secrets. I'm like, you know what?
Military secrets.
I'm like, I'm out of this one. I'm not going to engage with you. You are fully into the cult. Oh, his border plan is the best. Biden had the best border plan in history, and it was struck down by the GOP because Trump wanted them to, because he didn't want Biden to get a win. That is a fact.
Yeah, he wanted to run on the problem. If you solve the problem, then how am I going to tarnish immigrants? How am I going to mention caravans when things go really bad? The caravans that magically appear only around election time and then disappear for 4 years.
Insane.
All right.
It's an insane world we live in.
Yep.
Okay, I got to wrap up
We
because
have
I got to get.
one more thing federally.
Okay.
However, which is important. Yesterday, the NDP joined the Bloc Québécois in making it clear that they were not going to support Poilievre's confidence motion bid, putting Jagmeet Singh in the situation that we always said that he would be in when he made the decision to walk away from the deal. What's going to happen when Pierre Poilievre presents a confidence motion? And now you have to explain to people why it is that the too selfish, too beholden to corporate interests, and too weak Liberal Party should still have your confidence. When Pierre tells you to jump. And of course he said, well, I'm not going to sit there and do what Pierre tells me to do. But, it's like, we'll decide when it's in the best interest of Canadians. And by Canadians, he means himself. So the best interest of Canadians has absolutely nothing to do with this, because if you thought about that, you would have kept your word like this. And then you keep on telling everybody that, trust my word, when you've just shown that everyone that your word means nothing because you backed away from a deal that was working well, and that everybody under the sun seems to be saying that the Liberals met every single commitment. So you had no reason to walk away. Yes. So, but it seems that Pierre got really, 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 really mad because if all the parties get together now, I'm guessing that the Greens might be the only ones who vote with Pierre, because Elizabeth May said, we have never supported Justin Trudeau on any confidence motion because he built the damn pipeline.
Right.
So if they're still holding true to that when it comes to this, because in this case, Pierre wants to take the government down based on a climate-related issue. So now Elizabeth May and the Greens are sitting there like this, well, which climate issue are we more pissed off about? The fact that Pierre wants to become the leader and destroy everything that we built, or that Trudeau, while he did do some stuff, he did build a pipeline, so he kind of, we don't like. So they're in a tricky position. But let's say they remain ideologically consistent on the initial point. The Conservatives only have the 2 Green votes voting with them. And if the Greens decide, well, no, not you, Pierre, we will vote this time, then the only thing Pierre has done with his motion is get the entire House to pre-commit before the vote that they are going to vote no confidence in Pierre's ability to read a room, or in this case, the House.
Well,
no confidence in Pierre becoming Prime Minister.
Well, I started the show, or the little descriptor at the beginning, about how apparently, rumor, not verified, but apparently, Jagmeet Singh approached Pierre Poilievre and said, let's take this outside.
Apparently, yes. So there was an incident that happened.
And then Pierre went and slunk down in his seat and left shortly thereafter. We don't know what was said.
No, because the audio did not pick it up.
And the individual who floated that rumor has been known to be hyperbolic and somewhat, little fudgy with the truth sometimes.
Okay. So, but yes, there was basically Jagmeet Singh made the pronouncement that he was not going to support this, and then Pierre Poilievre came up. Jagmeet Singh is a fraud and a liar and a phony, and I was like, projection, anyone? Table of one. Table's ready. So Pierre basically accused Jagmeet of everything that Pierre is.
Well, and here we go. Oh, and now it won't play. All right, let's try that again. Hang on. I don't know what's going on there. That was working a second ago. I was just watching it. Okay, here we go. Now I got it. That's weird how sometimes it works and then it doesn't. I can't explain technology some days. It just does not want to cooperate. Here we go. Let's try this one more time.
Jagmeet Singh has done it again. First, Singh sold out the people of Canada to sign on to a costly carbon tax coalition that taxed your food, doubled your housing costs, punished your work, and unleashed crime in your community.
Oh my God, this guy's a fucking robot. He just keeps saying the same shit over and over again.
On the eve of losing a by-election in a Winnipeg NDP stronghold, he went to Winnipeggers and he looked them in the eye. He said he had torn up the carbon tax coalition. Well, as soon as the votes were counted and he no longer needed the people of Winnipeg, he betrayed them. He taped back together the carbon tax coalition agreement and he sold them out again. It was a big Hollywood production in which he announced the end to the carbon tax coalition, but it was all a lie.
Just like every word out of your fucking mouth. Oh my God.
Is a fake, a phony, a fraud, and a liar. And
so that line was
Canada
rehearsed.
Cannot trust anything that he says going forward.
So
this fucking guy.
I'm good that he mentioned that, though. A fake, a phony, a fraud, and a liar. You cannot trust a word that he says. Right, Pierre?
Talking about himself.
Right, Pierre? Basically telling us not to trust a word you say, because there's no one more fake, phony, or a liar or a fraud than you. All right. Now, I got 2 clips from Yves-François Blanchet for you. You're going to like these.
I never support Liberals. Help me God. I go against the Conservatives on a vote that is only about Pierre Poilievre and his huge ambition for himself. I support the interests of Quebecers. If those interests are also good for Canadians, so far, so good. And I also support the idea of independence for Quebec. I never support Liberals. Help me God.
So that's the first one, right? That's sort of he's never met a mirror he doesn't like type comment 2, right? This is like, I'm not going to support Pierre Poilievre on a vanity project to get power just for himself.
No, exactly.
What do you think you are? And then this is the next one. This one is chef's kiss.
À la question, la réponse est non. Donc, est-ce que le Bloc québécois va voter en faveur de la motion des conservateurs la semaine prochaine? La réponse est non. On a déjà eu ces conversations-là à de nombreuses reprises. La notion ne contient absolument rien. Elle dit essentiellement, voulez-vous remplacer Pierre Trudeau par... Justin Trudeau par Pierre Poilievre. Donc, la réponse, c'est non. Le Bloc québécois est au service des Québécois. Il n'est pas au service des conservateurs. Je ne suis pas un conservateur. Je ne connais pas le programme conservateur. Je connais les valeurs conservatrices. Ce ne sont pas les valeurs québécoises. Donc, il n'y aura pas un rabais à Pierre Poilievre pour faire semblant que les bloquistes sont des conservateurs pour le faire remplacer Justin Trudeau. Ça n'arrivera pas. Un peu comme si je disais à Pierre Poilievre, et si tu veux que je vote pour toi dans une motion de défiance, reproche au gouvernement Trudeau de ne pas avoir favorisé l'indépendance du Québec. Pierre Poilievre dirait, je ne peux pas faire ça. Ben voilà, je ne peux pas faire ça. Parce que je ne suis pas un auteur, je suis un Québécois, je suis un bloquiste, je sers les intérêts du Québec et le remplacement de l'un par l'autre, de la vipère par la tarentule ou le contraire.
So, he basically said here, the answer is no. We will not vote in favor of the conservative motion. We've already had these discussions many, many, many times. The motion contains nothing. It's essentially a motion that says, do you want to replace Justin Trudeau with Pierre Poilievre? So the answer is no. I'm at the service of Quebecers. I'm not at the service of the Conservatives.
Correct.
Yes. I know the conservative values. They are not Quebecers' values. So the answer is no. Pierre Poilievre asking me to vote in favor of this motion would sort of be akin to someone voting no confidence in, or me voting no confidence in him, or asking him to vote in favor of Quebec separation.
Mm-hmm.
It's never going to happen.
Never.
Right?
Never going to happen.
So why, it's like Pierre Poilievre would never be able to do that, just like I am not able to do this. I'm a Québécois. I am not a conservative.
Mm-hmm.
I am a bloquiste. And I want Quebec to be its own nation. So no, I will not be supporting this, and I will not be playing into the game where people are going to be able to say, oh, the Blocs are just Quebec conservatives by voting to support him. It's not going to happen. It's like, I am not going to play the game of making a choice between the Viper and the Tarantula.
Pretty solid.
One of them being the Viper being, of course, Poilievre, and the Tarantula being Trudeau.
Right.
In his thinking. So, and the Bloc Québécois, like I said, he has that little, he's going to tell me how things are going to happen in Quebec.
Not happening.
Right, not happening. So.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like Poilievre being that insistent that he thinks he can tell the province what they're going to do. I'm like, oh, you just pissed him off. Now he's mad.
Pierre Poilievre is already talking like he's running shit.
Yeah.
It's like, you, NDP guy, vote for an election now, like this, and get rid of this carbon tax thing. You, Bloc Québécois, you do this. He's like walking around, handing out orders impetuously, like he's running things, and like he's owed this.
Yeah.
He is owed other leaders of other parties doing his bidding to make it easier for him to. That attitude is only going to last so long before it gets really annoying and people get tired of it.
People find him so repulsive as it is. There's people who do support him, yes, but more and more people are like, the man is repulsive. And all he sits there and he does is he insults his colleagues and then demand they do what he wants them to. I worked in sales for a very long time. I find when you insult your client and then tell them to buy what you're selling, it doesn't work very well.
Yeah. Doesn't work.
He's a narcissist, though, so he's going to do it anyway.
Yeah. The other big thing that, and then with the battle with Jagmeet Singh again, I'm not sure that in this case, this was a good move, because Jagmeet Singh had his move when he stood up to the protester. Mm-hmm. Now it just looks like, oh, well, that worked well for me 2 days ago. Let's go back to the well.
Yeah.
It also feeds into the people that are trying to put the narrative of the, angry ethnic looking guy from a country that has some terroristy stuff that happens.
Yeah.
Feed in that trope. So all there, Jagmeet Singh really needs to control his temper like this. You don't want to play into the angry dark man trope. Like this. So they're the first time, he's walking down, somebody calls him a corrupt bastard. You know what? That's it.
Yeah.
I get that. Everybody's had that moment. But when you've had that moment, when you've had your release the day before, like this, and then the next day, Pierre Poilievre, you know who he is, you know what he's about. I guess gets under your skin, you go, and allegedly want to take it outside, bro?
Yeah, not a good one. I mean, there's
a
a part of me, like I said, there's a part of me that enjoys it, but there's another part of me going like, this is not good. It's not good politics. It's not what you should be doing. You are stooping to his level.
Yes, you're giving him what he wants. You're making him appear more powerful than he is. Number one, you're making him appear inevitable. But number two, it's just, there's only so many times you can go back to the well where a moment is genuine, and then it really looks like, hey, this worked for me, so let's just do it again at every opportunity that comes up. Yeah. Exactly. That's the right comment. Standing up to bully is one thing. Deliberately seeking out a confrontation is just macho posturing. Indeed. The other big news that happened yesterday is, as predicted, Minister Pablo Rodriguez, who was the Minister of Transport, did a step aside after the by-election. He's going to remain as a member of the House, but he stepped aside as Transport Minister, and he also stepped aside as a member of the Liberal caucus. So he's sitting as an independent now. Pablo Rodriguez has designs on running for the leadership of the Quebec Liberal Party. I believe the Liberal campaign there starts in June. So Pablo Rodriguez is staying in the House. The main reason for that is because, given that by-elections have to be called within 6 months, I don't think that Prime Minister Trudeau wants to have another by-election in Montreal that he might lose that close to an election date. So it seems that Rodriguez has decided to remain in the House as an independent MP so that the seat isn't vacated and the Prime Minister doesn't have to call a by-election, but sitting as an independent so that he can start building his own brand. He says... now I have the opportunity to set my own priorities. I was defending the priorities of the government, and I did it in a very loyal way, and it's normal. That's what I had to do. But now it's more about my vision and the vision of the team that I'm building. That's what I'm going to put forward for Quebecers. Anita Anand is now the transport minister that she takes on in conjunction with her duties as Treasury Board President. And Public Services and Procurement Minister Jean-Yves Duclos now becomes the lieutenant for Quebec in the Liberal Party. So there you go, Kits and Cubs. Mr. Grizzly, do we have a show?
We do.
All right, Kits and Cubs, that's the end of this episode of the Daily Beaver Morning Show. We hope that you love listening to us because we loved making this for you. Remember, sharing is caring and word of mouth is priceless, so please tell your peeps and poops all about us. And if you do not want to miss an episode, you do not have to, thanks to the Ray Girl, because that QR code that's right under my chin will bring you to our pod page. And if you are listening, that's podpage.com/The True North Eager Beaver, lowercase letters with a hyphen between each one of those words. And when you go there and click subscribe, when we have something fresh off the bandwidth, it comes directly to you. Now, if you would like to help us in other ways, then you need to make like Kit Elaine and surf yourself on down to the True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated YouTube page, where we have 3 buttons for you: like, share, and subscribe. Remember to smash those buttons. It makes us happy. It really does. To let us know that you support us. And if you would like to support us in other ways, the QR code by Mr. Grizzly's head there brings you to our coffee page. That's coffee, ko-fi.com/eagerbeaver, lowercase letters, all in one word. And that's where you find our tip jar. So if you like the product that we offer to you, you like our analysis, and you would like to encourage us to do a little more, if you can drop a little bit of appreciation into our tip jar, we would very, very, very much be grateful to you for doing that, because there are some costs to putting the show on for you. And if we were able to recover them, that would be absolutely fantastic. So we thank you for your generosity and your kindness. If you are not able to help, please do not worry. Worry no more, or as we say in New Brunswick, worry pas. Because the gift of your attention and participation is the one that we appreciate the most. So, and we love to hear from you. So truenortheagerbeaver@gmail.com is where you can write to us. You can leave us a message on our Twitter feed @trueeager. You can leave us a message right here on our YouTube page if you're listening, leave a little comment there, or to our Facebook page @truenortheagerbeaver. We do try to read everything, so we thank you for everything and all the compliments and the kindness that you show us. It really warms our hearts. Because democracy is something that you do. All right, we're done with most of the by-elections for now, getting ready for some municipal elections in Yukon and Nova Scotia in October, and of course the 3 provincial elections. So if you have some candidates that you support there, please find a way that you can get involved by doing something and putting your body into the race to encourage or support the candidate of your choice or the party of your choice. Mr. Grizzly, do you have some words of wisdom for us today?
All I can say right now is just enjoy the weekend. It's going to be beauty here in the nation's capital. Get out and enjoy some of that hot summer-like weather, because it's officially fall tomorrow.
All right. And if you're in Ontario, the Liberal Convention starts in London today. So there'll be some news from that over the course of the weekend if you're following politics over the course of the weekend. It could be a tough world out there, so please be kind to and gentle with yourself. Mr. Grizzly, please cue the cock. You are listening to a True North Eager Beaver Media Incorporated podcast. The True North Eager Beaver podcasts are proudly brought to you by our founding sponsors, the Misfit Mysteries from Corvid Moon Publishing, your source for science fiction, fantasy, and cozy mysteries featuring a broad diversity of characters. CanadianTarot.com, their uniquely Canadian online eclectic tarot community, and The Pepper Master, hot pepper sauces made from farm-fresh ingredients to thrill your taste buds and expand your mind. We are grateful to the Crier Media Network for its support, Pete Jarvis for our artwork, and Paul Joseph Something for our opening and closing sequence music.